The Batman is a wonderful, wonderful character, and there are so many films. The one playing behind me right now is Batman and Harley Quinn, which a lot of people did not like. They didn't like this movie for a lot of reasons. One, it's a little bit funny, it's a little bit silly, but ultimately I think the reason this video was not liked was because it's actually not a Batman film. Because the problem is that Batman is known and loved for being dark and painful and suffering and having tons and tons of issues. But Harley, who we also love and think is awesome, is not loved for those reasons. She's got her issues, granted, but she is funny and fun and makes crime entertaining and silly. And this film goes part way towards creating the story that we know and love in Harley Quinn, the TV show. And if you haven't seen that, I'm not putting it up behind me because it's incredibly bloody and very, very violent. But it is a wonderful, wonderful story. But Batman is a very minor character, and a minor antagonist even. And the story is all about Harley herself. So that is, and it's loved. People love it. We can't get enough of it. And why can't we get enough of it? Because we looked at it as a Harley story. And I would say that this film, Batman and Harley Quinn, behind me, is a Harley story. And she is our hero. But it was marketed and sold and thought of as a Batman story. But we don't need him at all. And that happens a lot in Batman, where we see the creators trying to shove, because Batman has an amazing rogue gallery, and they're oftentimes shoving characters in that the story doesn't need. And the recent film, The Batman, does this epically. And you could very easily tell that story without one of the characters. And I am going to tell you the story of the Batman. Spoilers! The recent film with Robert Pattinson. I'm going to break that whole story down without one of the characters. I'm just going to remove one and show you how to remove a character from a story that isn't serving the story and make it better. But first I want to talk about why in this film we can remove Batman. Well, first of all, Batman doesn't even find Harley. It's Dick Grayson that finds Harley. Batman's doing stuff, but really all we get out of Batman is some exposition. And the fact that what Poison Ivy's doing is not so great. And some catchy one-liners and some references to the Adam West show. That's all we get from Batman. Everything else is all Nightwing and Harley Quinn. And they are the sort of dynamic duo, if you will, of this film.
You could argue, I suppose, that Batman plays the role of the threshold guardian and possibly even a reluctant mentor to Harley in this story. But these are very loose interpretations of it. One thing I might mention is the Joker is absent from this movie, and I'm not so sure the Robert Pattinson Batman film can make the same claim. Just saying.
Batman stories, he's not always the hero. And I've mentioned this before, when we look at Batman Bad Blood, that is not a Batman story either. That is a story of Dick Grayson. And this could have been a story of Harley Quinn. And actually it is a story of Harley Quinn, and they just stuck Batman in there to make it muddy. And when you remove the characters that don't work for you, when you remove the characters that aren't serving the story, then the story improves. It doesn't get worse. Cutting actually helps in that case. And I will show you again at the end of this video how that is done. But first, a word from our sponsor.
And speaking of my videos, if you like what you're seeing so far, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. And if you want to dig even deeper, then head over to my Patreon account where you can download all the workbooks, activities, and helpful hints that come from these videos. All right, let's hop back into it.
Remember, the first 100 subscribers get that second tier for the price of the first tier. for the lifetime of your subscription, forever. So you get all the stuff, you get the Facebook group, you get the workshopping and all that stuff through the Facebook group and the extras and all that when you sign up as the base rate.
And now, The Batman, edited.
My desert island, all-time top 5.
I first want to go on the record of saying that I love Zoe Kravitz and I love Catwoman when she is done correctly. However, neither of them were needed to make The Batman, the film, good. And I can show you why this was a 100% cuttable character. Let's dive in. So on Halloween, Gotham City Mayor Don Mitchell Jr. is murdered by some masked vigilante, the Riddler. The reclusive Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, who has operated for 2 years as a vigilante, investigates the murder alongside the Gotham City Police Department, and they love him for it. Just kidding. Gordon stands up for him and acts as the threshold guardian, letting him into the crime scene. Bruce, butler, and caretaker Alfred Pennyworth, aka the Mentor, tries to persuade Bruce to venture into public and maintain his parents' legacy and industry. Bruce Wayne is more interested in being all spooky and the Batman and doesn't care so much about, you know, living life and being a billionaire and all that kind of crap. This would be a great moment, actually, to sit down and think about the fact that Thomas and Martha Wayne were upstanding, wonderful citizens. That way, we could subvert that later instead of relying on IP to care about Bruce's parents after they're dead. Anyway, the following night, because this Long Halloween is a lot shorter, even though the movie's a lot longer than the Long Halloween, the Riddler kills Commissioner Pete Savage. What? Gordon is commissioner? Anyway. And leaves another message for the Batman. Batman and Gordon discover the Riddler left a thumb drive. Funny joke about that. In Mitchell's car containing images of Mitchell with some woman at the Iceberg Lounge, a nightclub operated by Penguin, a minor antagonist who's a mobster Falcone's slightly bigger antagonist associate. While the Penguin pleads ignorance, and in this situation, Selina's doing the investigating, but why when Bruce could just walk in there as Bruce Wayne, and that could be a thing. So let's just cut out Selina here and make it Bruce walking through the lounge and discovering that Savage was on Falcone's payroll, and also Coulson is. The Riddler, again, does some bad crap, and he abducts Coulson, straps a timed collar bomb to his neck, and sends him into Mitchell's funeral. When Batman arrives, the Riddler calls him via Coulson's phone and threatens to detonate the bomb if Coulson cannot answer 3 riddles, which aren't actually riddles, they're more of an interrogation, but semantics. When Coulson refuses to answer the 3rd, the name of the informant who gave the GCPD information that led to the historic drug bust ending mobsters Salvatore Maroni's operation, he dies. Batman and Gordon deduce that the informant may be Penguin, and using some pretty, amazing deductive skills there, and track him down. They discover Maroni's operation transferred to Falcone when many corrupt GCPD officers were involved. After a car chase, which is epic and awesome, gotta say, although I got pulled out of the situation a little bit because the steering wheel's on the wrong side of the car if you happen to live in Australia, as I do. Anyway, after this amazing car chase, Batman captures the Penguin, but learns he is not the informant. Batman and Gordon follow the Riddler's trail to the ruins of an orphanage funded by Bruce's murdered parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, where they learn that Riddler holds a grudge against the Wayne family. And Meanwhile, Alfred, our mentor and reluctant father figure, is hospitalized after opening a letter bomb addressed to Bruce. The Riddler leaks evidence that Thomas, who was running for mayor before he was murdered, hired Falcone, killed a journalist for threatening to reveal the details about Martha and her family's history of mental illness. Bruce, who grew up believing that his father was morally upstanding, confronts Alfred, who maintains that Thomas only asked Falcone to threaten the journalist into silence. Thomas planned to turn himself and Falcone over to the police once he found out that Falcone had murdered the journalist, and Alfred believes that Falcone then had Thomas and Martha killed. This beat would have hit so much harder if we weren't relying on IP to believe that Bruce's parents were awesome and wonderful and perfect, but we actually had that moment earlier on, as I mentioned, but I digress. Let's go on. At this stage in the movie, we actually get Selina doing some stuff. And I would remove it because I want the time. And this movie could use some cutting. Just saying, it's a little long. But I would remove the whole Selina Falcone daddy subplot and devote more time to the Falcone Thomas Wayne connection, because that actually plays into Bruce's motivation much stronger than some woman he just met and has absolutely zero connection with. Catwoman works really well as a shapeshifter character in Batman stories, but as an ally, she falls a little flat because she doesn't actually bring anything new to the story that Batman can't just do himself. Anyway, Batman and Gordon arrive to arrest Falcone, but the Riddler kills Falcone as he is being arrested, and the Riddler is unmasked as forensic accountant Edward Nashton, and is incarcerated in Arkham State Hospital, apparently without trial, but anyway, where he tells Batman he took inspiration from him when targeting the corrupt. This is a great moment to pause and look at the difference between the shadow and the hero and how they play together. So hit that like and subscribe button, because we are going to look into this aspect of these two characters so much deeper in upcoming weeks. But I want to get to the end of the story. We are almost there. This is so much shorter than the movie actually was. Batman learns that Nashton had stationed car bombs around Gotham and cultivated an online following that plans to assassinate Mayor-elect Bella Real. The bombs destroy the seawall around Gotham and flood the city. Nashton's followers attempt to kill Real, but are stopped by Batman and, I'm going to say, Gordon. In the movie, it's Selina, obviously, but like I said, she is superfluous. We don't really need her. And in the aftermath, as Nashton befriends an inmate, you thought I was going to say Joker could be cut, and he could. Really, he could. But we're cutting Catwoman. Instead of some weird anticlimax like, come with me, leave Gotham, Batman, and come with me. And he's like, yeah, I'm never going to leave Gotham, and that's just stupid. And the audience knows I'm not going to leave, and they're just looking for the bathroom because this movie's already too long. Instead of that, let's instead have Bruce dressed in his suit telling Alfred, still in bandages but back to work, that he is going to the office and he is going to set the city right by day as Bruce Wayne and by night as the Batman. Now you may roll the credits. Thank you very much.
I never thanked you for finding me and getting me home that night.
You thought I was your mother.